Welcome to Critical DMG, a podcast about two best friends who might have grown up but never grew out of their love for the Game Boy. We will be playing and reviewing every North American title released on Nintendo's original handheld console. This is episode 24. I'm Tony, and I never knew that I was left-handed until right now.
We'll get into that. And I'm Jeff, and today we're talking about World Bowling. So who knew there were so many sports and puzzle games on the Game Boy?
I did.
Before we get into that, Happy New Year, everyone.
Yay!
This is our first episode of 2026.
Whoa.
And kind of like we hinted last episode, we do have some things planned, and the first of which is our Patreon. So we've had a Patreon for a while now, but we're planning on ramping up the content over there. So we have some content out right now that you can go and look at. Essentially, our plan is to release some bonus episodes each month, sort of a newsletter style format. If that sounds like something that interests you, check it out over at patreon.com/criticaldmgpod.
Yep, it's going to be things like interviews, extra podcast things, sort of companion piece episodes. Should be fun. We're aiming for a couple different things every month. We would appreciate it if you check it out.
Yeah, we've made a post over there kind of explaining it a little bit more, as well as some complimentary content to kind of understand what we're talking about. With that, Tony, do you recommend World Bowling?
I think I do.
Ooh, interesting. I am a no on this one.
Okay.
I think I'm a hard no.
Ooh, okay.
But kind of for a specific reason. So I guess we'll wrap back around to that. Can you tell us what the back of the box says?
Okay. Here we go. World Bowling. A bowling alley in the palm of your hand. With World Bowling, you can compete in a fun-filled competition in the finest bowling alleys of the world. Stops along the tour are Japan, China, the USA, Canada, France, and England. Do you have what it takes to make the qualifying scores to stay on the World Tour? World Bowling is a 1 or 2 player scratch bowling match. You can select your player and the weight of your ball. With careful positioning, a nice hook, and the right amount of power, you can bowl your way around the world. With World Bowling, you can take the lanes with you. I think that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward. It is a bowling game released in April of 1990 by Romstar, which I believe is a publisher we have not seen yet. But it's bowling, pretty true to bowling, and that's kind of all I have on it.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot that I could find either. It was developed and published by Athena originally in Japan and then brought to the US by Romstar. There's not really a lot of interesting little tidbits and things that I could find out about the development of this one. I do know that it's not the only version of it, that there was basically like this exact game also released on the Virtual Boy.
Okay.
Which is really cool, and I would love to get my hands on one of those at some time. But yeah, not really a lot. I do have some interesting tidbits for the end of the show, but nothing really up front.
All right, let's get into the mechanics. So, as we've mentioned, this is a sports game, pretty faithful to bowling. So you're throwing a ball and knocking down pins. That's pretty much it. Controls, kind of similar to golf, where you have a series of timed events that you have to push A at the right time to get the right power or control or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Left or right will move you in the lane, so left or right on the lane. A will then set your position, start your control slider. Hitting A again will set your control, start your power slider. Hitting A again, then throws the ball. And that's pretty much the gameplay right there.
Yep.
So, Tony, did you conquer all 6 countries, or what was your gameplay like?
I don't know if I'm just really bad at this or if the qualifying scores are just higher than what I might expect them to be. I'm not like super big bowler, but I do enjoy bowling as like a, fun thing you can do at a bowling alley with some friends and stuff like that. So I'm not like as far removed from bowling as some of the other sports that we've covered, but this one was fun to play, but I never made it past Japan, which is the first bowling course that you do, no matter how many times I tried. And I think I went through 4 or 5 different attempts.
Okay.
I never cracked the 200 that was required to get past the qualifier in Japan. So I don't know if I'm just really bad or what's going on, but no matter how many spares I seem to pick up, it never gave me the points I needed.
Yeah, so my high score was 190, I think. So I'm in the same boat. I never got out of Japan. And essentially how one player works is you work your way through the different countries. So Japan, you need a score of 200, China 210, US 220, Canada 230, France 240, England 250. And then once you beat France, you kind of win the game. And that's how the one player goes. Perfect score in bowling, I guess for anyone who doesn't know, is 300. So, 200 is a decent, I would say, score. Pretty decent. Not for professional bowlers, but definitely for amateurs like Tony and I.
Mm-hmm.
Because of your comment earlier, I'm assuming I know which character you chose, but you do have 2 characters. Which character did you play as?
I played as the girl bowler, and I have to say, one, bravo for having both a boy and a girl to choose from in the first place, but double bravo for making it so that the girl wasn't just the easy mode. Looking at you, Malibu Beach Volleyball.
As far as I could tell, well, one, very obviously, they were different-handed. So the boy was right-handed, the girl was left-handed. That didn't seem to really play into gameplay at all. Changed where you positioned yourself on the lane. And then they had different ball weights.
Right.
So 7 pound, 9 pound, 12, and 15. The manual does say find out the best ball weight for each player before starting the game.
I saw that.
Then doesn't explain that further and doesn't tell you what the best ball weight is.
It meant find out on your own.
Yeah, I couldn't really see any difference or anything like that, but
me either.
Kind of interesting that they had those different choices.
I appreciated it. And, if they wanted to make it so that it wasn't just like a cosmetic thing, which even if it was just a cosmetic thing would have still been a welcome addition to, most of the rest of the stuff that we have played. But I looked online to see if there was some sort of actual real world difference between right-handed bowling strategy versus left-handed bowling strategy. And professional bowling stuff was way beyond me, and they started talking about terms that I didn't understand, and so I tried to kind of emulate visually what I saw, in the way that I curved the ball as I threw it, but it didn't really seem to matter. And I never played as the man. So I don't know. I never saw a difference because I played as both the man and the woman. I only played as a woman bowler. So I don't know. I don't know how much it actually measures into anything. I did try a couple of the different ball weights, but I, again, didn't really notice a whole lot of difference.
Yeah.
I'm curious how they handled the bowling of it. Obviously, you can kind of figure how they would make the ball roll down the lane and keep track of all the scoring and stuff, but the actual collisions of the pins, I wonder how they did that.
I had that noted as well.
Yeah, from my experience, and again, I know GB Studio is not the same as raw Game Boy programming, but from my experience, having so many objects that close together, those collision boxes would probably be overlapping in a way that would make it so that things would be flying off when you didn't necessarily intend them to.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if it was RNG. Is it just they take into account where your gauges are when you roll and your player position, and all of those things are hidden variables that the game does some math magic to figure out what percentage you have of getting a strike versus a spare versus a gutter ball or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you roll the ball, it does that math in the background, and then it just plays the appropriate animation for however many pins you were supposed to knock over.
I hadn't thought about it.
Or is it like actual physical collisions? Because if that's the case, I would really love to know how they did that, because, how on earth are they getting things like a split where you've got to hit one pin and it flies over and hits the other pin? Like, how did they physically do that on the Game Boy? I would love to know.
I initially had assumed that it was actual physics or some sort of physics engine in the background.
Uh-huh.
But hearing you, yeah, I would almost put money on the fact that each time you push A, you're essentially setting a value. So you set your position value,
sure,
you set your control value, and then you set your power value.
Yep.
And then apparently each lane or country has different characteristics.
Yeah, I read that too.
Then, based on your initial values, it takes the lane values, and then, probably plus or minus X amount, and then just plays the appropriate animation. I feel like that has to be how it does it. Otherwise, I can't imagine an actual physics engine with collision and all of that running as smoothly as it does.
Right.
It doesn't really hiccup or anything as it's going through.
Nope.
So I can't imagine it's actually calculating collisions. I feel like, it has to be what you said. It kind of, based on the input, it has this likelihood of these outputs, and here you go.
And the fact that the manual says kind of candidly, like, figure out the best ball for either player, there are so many variables that can go into it. You've got whether you picked the man or the woman, what weight ball you pick, what lane you're on, your power, your spin, where you're positioned. Like, all of those things can come together to be just factors in a math equation that all get added and subtracted together in the background, and then spit out the probability that say, oh, well, you have this much chance that it's going to be this. And then, well, you got that chance. That's what you did. Oh, it's a strike. And they knock down all the pins. So, I don't know. It's fun to speculate. Again, I couldn't really find any information about that or anything, so we don't know for sure. But I would be curious to know, because I thought I was doing what I was supposed to. They tell you to, and this was in the manual as well, I believe, they tell you to kind of pay attention to where you're lining up your shot and how much strength you're putting in and the curve of your ball and that sort of stuff. And I think there is an actual description in the manual of like the perfect shot of how you're supposed to make the ball only hit the last 4 pins or something like that.
Yeah.
So I was trying to do like what it showed in the manual, and it just never worked out for me. So if it turned out that it was some sort of just random like numbers equation in the background, I don't know if I would feel a little better or a little worse about it, honestly.
Yeah. So every time I've ever played bowling in real life, I just throw the ball straight at the first pin. Sometimes it works out. Most of the time it doesn't. That's not the way you're supposed to bowl. And I'm not really into bowling. So if anyone is and I misspeak, definitely let me know, correct me.
Sure.
But my understanding is, more or less, like the manual says, you kind of want to curve the ball. And that's why if you watch a lot of pro bowlers, or at least a lot of pro bowlers that I have seen, their ball curves down the lane on the first frame. If they're, if they have 10 pins up, they're kind of trying to hit that first pin with the ball kind of going sideways into the rest of the triangle.
Right.
And I guess that's the biggest probability of hitting a strike and all of that fun stuff. The game does allow you to do that, but I agree with you. It felt a little bit RNG when I was doing it. A little bit more than it felt like it should have been with the quick time events. I feel like I'm not horrible at getting a little dot to line up where I want it when I do, quick time events.
I know that you said 200 is, like a pretty good score for like amateur bowler or whatever, but I think I sank probably an hour into my 4 or 5 attempts, like across the entire time that I took a crack at World Bowling. And I never came close. I think my best score was still probably only around like 180 something. And no matter how many times I felt like I was doing well, you know, because no matter how the mathed out, I was never able to hit 200. And that felt bad. You know, I was enjoying the game otherwise, but every time I would go to check my progress, you can hit B and it'll pull up your current score tally for every frame. And I would check and I would kind of just guess about halfway through, oh, my score is 70 something or 90 something or whatever. Like, I don't think I'm going to make it to the 200 that I need. And sure enough, I never did. And I would have liked to see the other courses. What did they change? What is the difference between them? I didn't look anything up about it afterward because I really thought I wasn't going to have that much trouble with this game. But like I said, apparently either I'm just really bad at it or the RNG is kind of rough or 200 is just too high. I don't know.
Rare mid-show lookup. Apparently, average professional bowlers bowl around a 230, 240-ish.
Okay.
We'll say like 220 to 250. My understanding is that their lanes are much more difficult, you know, much smoother or whatever than normal lanes. So the scores in this game seem to kind of track with that.
Yeah, for a qualifier.
Yeah. Also, I could not find a whole lot of gameplay footage, honestly. A lot of what I saw online was that it was like relatively difficult.
Yeah.
Speedrun is a little disappointing. There are no active players, but it looks like there are a few entries into the Japan category, and it kind of looked like you just mashed A as fast as you could to try to get through it, and it didn't matter if you actually beat it or not.
Oh, like you're not actually trying to get like a high score to pass or whatever.
Yeah. But I did find one person who went through and beat the game, and it did look like a lot of the lanes you could kind of solve. And while it wasn't perfect, if you set up the same way every time and more or less got the same control and power, then you would get a strike or a spare most of the time.
Oh, wow.
It was way farther to the side of the lane than I personally was trying. They were most of the time going all the way over and then back one. So they were definitely on the side of the lanes, whereas I was more centered.
Right.
I took that as why I potentially didn't make it, but I don't think you're bad. I think it is just potentially a kind of difficult game, especially if you don't take the time to really try to solve it in that way.
Sure. I usually would end up, you know, again, because the woman was the left-handed bowler, so I would try to move either to one or the other end of the bowling lane and curve the ball appropriately as I would throw it. And I mean, I got some strikes. It's not like I didn't get any strikes the entire time I played, but knowing that 300 was the maximum perfect game score for bowling, 200 still seemed pretty doable, assuming that the game wants you to see the rest of the lanes and stuff, but I don't know, maybe they just didn't want you to actually experience all the other 5 lanes.
And I think that is kind of where the difficulty of this game comes in, is that little bit of RNG, or if it was super easy to solve, then I feel like you don't have much of a game here. You know, I feel like if bowling a strike was really easy, you would plow through the 6 countries and then that would be it.
Sure.
Right? There's no unlocks, there's no additional gameplay or anything like that. So I can understand why they potentially made it maybe a little bit more realistic like that, where it is not extremely easy to just strike after strike.
I almost wish it would have been like, just drop the qualifying score down by like 30 more points, because if it is RNG and you don't really have as much control over what your score is going to be, like what pins you're going to knock down and stuff like that, as you would think that you would have, at least you would then be able to see the rest of the lanes. If you start at 170 and you go up by 10, every time, 180, 190, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you're still going to end up at, what, 220 or something by the last one? That's pretty respectable for, like, amateur bowling competition, whatever. So at least that way you would be able to make it, I don't know, maybe like halfway through the game pretty consistently.
Yeah, I agree. But that sounds like wrap-up talk, so
Right.
I don't have anything else on the mechanics. Do you want to get into our creative discussion, and then we'll wrap back around to that?
Yes, let's talk aesthetics.
Let's do it right after a quick ad break.
Ad break.
Let's hear some of those new ad ideas you wanted to run by me.
Yeah, okay. How about listen to Critical DMG free? What are you waiting for?
A little aggressive, don't you think? What else do you have?
We're 95% fat-free and with no preservatives. Thank goodness for Critical DMG.
No, I think it's safe to say that neither of us are preservative or fat-free.
Critical DMG. It's the most exciting thing you can do with the inside of a cake.
Come on, we're not Betty Crocker over here. That doesn't even make sense. We just want to tell people to listen to Critical DMG if they want fun, lighthearted discussion about games on the Game Boy. From two best friends old enough to remember playing these games when they released, you know?
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm sorry, Tony, but some of these older Game Boy games are just bad.
Oh, right, like you could do any better?
You know what? I probably could.
Yeah? Then do it. Make your own Game Boy game.
Tony, this isn't the 90s. I am not learning assembly.
Not necessary. Just use GB Studio. GB Studio is easy-to-use game-building software that lets you make games for your favorite retro gaming rectangle. With versions available for Windows, Mac, and Linux, it's never been easier to make a game for the Game Boy. And GB Studio's multiple project modes means you can develop for the original DMG, the Super Game Boy, or the Game Boy Color. Using a drag-and-drop style of visual scripting means you don't even need any prior programming knowledge to get started. And the best part is, your work can be built and exported as a fully playable Game Boy ROM, ready for any emulator or flash cart you choose. Learn more or download GB Studio for yourself at www.gbstudio.dev. And we're back.
Back bowling.
Title music.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
I think the music was fine. Not amazing, but it's bowling music. I found it to be very good, kind of background music, kind of what I would expect from bowling.
Yeah, very pleasant, very this is fine to have on in the background. It didn't grate on me looping the entire time. It definitely didn't make me feel worse. That is a problem with the music sometimes. Like if you're already frustrated in the game and the music is bad, it can just kind of compound that. So I'm glad that was not the case here.
Yeah.
But not a whole lot to write home about it. I will say, though, I think the sound design here was actually pretty good. I think the sound of the pins knocking down and all of the gauges pinging back and forth and stuff, I think were honestly kind of pleasant. They weren't really high. They weren't going so fast that it was irritating. And I mean, it sort of made the experience a little bit easier to just kind of suffer through. If I knew that things were going bad, at least it sounded nice to watch the ball roll down the lane and strike the pins over and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this is something that we haven't really had the opportunity in the last handful of episodes because the sound design for a lot of the recent games has been kind of weak.
So this is, I guess, somewhat common. I don't remember the sound effects very well, so that must mean that they kind of hit the mark and they played into what I was expecting. They didn't come off as strange or notable per se. So yeah, unfortunately, I can't really comment on this because I honestly don't really remember hearing them. But again, usually for me, that is a good sign. Usually that means they fit in with what I'm expecting. And so they go a little unnoticed because that's what I think should be happening.
Right. It's almost like the immersion of it. Like, yes, this is what I expect these bowling sounds to sound like. Yeah. No, I can understand that. They're sort of like tinkly, I think is a good way to describe them. When you think of bowling ball crashing into bowling pins, you think of kind of the stock sound effect, like crashing sound or whatever. It's not that. It's more of like, not wind chimes, but almost like the pins were made of glass, like if they were glass bottles instead of actual bowling pins. That's what it kind of sounded like to me. And all of the gauges going back and forth, it wasn't like very stinging sounds, which I'm really thankful for, because if you're waiting, trying to get like the perfect curve on the ball or whatever, sometimes they'll bounce back and forth quite a number of times before you actually do your input.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate that it wasn't like a kind of head pounding sound.
Well, and to your point, when you're potentially a little frustrated or you thought you lined up that last throw perfectly and then you didn't get a strike or whatever, having those little things that maybe like high-pitched repetitive noises or things like that really, really can detract from the gameplay. So it's always good when, that's not the case.
Yeah, and especially in this game where not only are you dealing with all of those gauges and the placement of your character and watching the ball, taking note of which pins are going to go down, there's also just a lot of UI on the screen that you have to keep track of as well. You've got like what frame it is, what your score is, what you just threw, was it a strike or a spare or whatever. You've got a vertical mini window of the bowling lane complete with which pins you knock over, which is, that's amazing that they have in this game. Like it's so much information in such a small space. Like the Game Boy screen being what it is, they cram everything that you would need to know, except for the full readout of your scoreboard, which is accessible with the press of a button.
Yeah.
So I really have to hand it to them. It's the first bowling game that we've seen. I'm sure there will be plenty more, but this one being the first one, I think that they kind of knock it out of the park as far as UI readability and being able to show exactly what you need to be seeing on the screen pretty much at all times.
I 100% agree. Yeah, I think the readability is very, very good. Even though, like you said, they do put in a lot of things, it doesn't feel cluttered. It doesn't feel like things are just there just for fun. Everything kind of has its purpose, and I think everything does its purpose well. The lane on the right side has lines that you can see. So if you have a single pin, it has an arrow at the bottom where you're lined up. So it makes it very easy to kind of make sure that you're lined up properly so you can just throw a straight ball. Or the control and the power are both very readable and very easy to tell when you're on that portion of the process. And honestly, I'm a little skeptical how another game could really do it too much better without changing the formula quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that there really is only personality that this game really lacks. The fact that you get to pick from either a man or a woman at the start, that's great. But they don't obviously their sprites are different, which is appreciated. They didn't just do generic bowler.
Yeah.
But they don't celebrate when you get a strike or anything. I know that they have a little cheerleader sprite come out, which I thought was adorable. There's a little fanfare that happens for that too when you get a strike. So that's really cute.
Well, each country has a different little strike celebrator.
See, I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah. And it might be slightly different, or I don't know if it's a little bit random on which ones come out, but again, I looked up gameplay, so the ones I did see were China has a panda. Canada has an ostrich or an emu or a goose. Some big bird thing comes out.
Maybe a goose.
Goose makes the most sense, but it really looks like an ostrich or an emu to me. So who knows?
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, England has a King's Guard, so the guy with like the big hat.
Okay.
The US has a bunny girl, is what it looked like to me.
What?
Unclear exactly, but as far as I could tell, like a showgirl, I guess. France had like a little circus clown come out.
Okay.
And then, yeah, Japan had... I saw the cheerleader. The footage I was watching kind of had like an angel, it looked like. So I don't know what the difference was with that.
Man.
But everything else looked about the same. If you do want to go in, I did double check some of these going into playing 2-player mode. You can select which country you play as. And I just kind of spammed until I got a strike. So I did double check that the versions I was playing on did also have these. So I found that cute, and I found that to be kind of like a nice little touch.
Oh, I wish I would have been able to see that. That's so frustrating. Wow. I thought it was just like cheerleader. Like, you know, I didn't know that it was specific to Japan. I thought it was just, you did a strike. Here's your cheerleader to celebrate. But yeah, even if it was just that, that would have been cute. But knowing that there was special ones for every country lane, like, dang. That makes me even more frustrated that I couldn't get past the first lane.
I'll send you the video afterwards and you can take a look.
In an improved bowling game, you know, like down the line, if there's another bowling game that we're going to play, I really think the only kind of extras that they can really work on are personality for the characters, or if they're going to go like fantastical, you know, like if it was like a Mario bowling kind of a deal, so the characters have like stats or special bowling moves, or the lanes are crazy or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything else for the aesthetics, or are we good to wrap around?
The only other thing that I kind of want to add that I do think kind of segues into that is, I feel like this was true to bowling.
Yeah.
They set out to make a bowling game, so much so the manual that I found even has like a history of bowling in it.
Oh, wow.
Which I found really interesting. They just devoted a whole page, and it's kind of just a block of text, you know, going all the way back to, we think maybe prehistoric days had cavemen throwing rocks at other rocks, and that was what bowling evolved from. So, you know, I found that kind of interesting that they didn't try to throw in a story. They didn't try to do any of that. They were true to bowling, and I think they did a good job with that.
I don't need a story in the same way that like Malibu Beach volleyball, you know, felt just like this.
Was like a tournament.
Yeah, it's just like, here you go. It's a world tournament. You're going to go and challenge all of these different countries, or all these different teams from different countries or whatever. And that is the story, you know? That's like, that's like shonen manga, a story at its finest. Here you go. It's the tournament arc. You're going to have a world tournament.
Yeah.
Classic. So I didn't need there to be anything more to it than that, because it already kind of is set that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with that, I'm happy to go to the wrap up. And I think if I had to sum up my feelings for this game,
sure,
I think it is a fine game that distilled bowling very well, but it should be a mini game in another game. And the reason I say that is kind of the replayability and kind of the RNG-ness of it. If you get it to a point where it's solved, then, you know, what's really the fun of going to this, hitting over 4 times, then stopping at this point, and it'll 95% of the time give me a strike. You know, I that isn't the most fun gameplay to me. Or if it is kind of more RNG and you're looking for like one good run, you know, that kind of feels like, again, a mini game where you're trying to get that one good run and then go do something else and you get, you know, a special prize or something. So that's kind of my take on it. And I don't think there's anything intrinsically bad about that.
Yeah.
It just, I can't necessarily recommend someone spend the batteries or the effort to find the game if that's my thought process on it.
I get that. I think ultimately, discussing it out loud, I don't know that I would recommend this game.
Ooh.
I don't think that it's worth the batteries.
I convinced you.
Only because I am hoping for a more balanced bowling game in the future. I really thought after as many times as I had gotten into it, I was going to crack the Japanese lane. Like I was going to be able to get past it and at least see the next one, if not any of the other ones after that. And I did enjoy the mechanics of it because I do like bowling games. You know, I liked bowling on the Wii, especially, and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And similarly to how you were talking about, it's very much like golf. It's mostly just like pressing the buttons at the right time after positioning yourself and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. I don't mind the game being that. But the fact that I never really felt like I was making progress toward the next area did really kind of sour me on the game, because it wasn't like I was getting better every time. Oh, my score is increasing. I'll definitely be able to make it out of Japan this time. Like, no, I was pretty much going up and down the entire time. Like I would go higher and then go back lower and then go higher and then back lower. So it felt like I was trapped, and that's never a fun feeling to have.
Yeah.
If this game would have been tweaked better, like whether it was that the RNG was too unfair or that the score needed to be lower so that you could get past the qualifiers easier, whatever the case might be, that would have just brought the base level like frustration of not being able to get past the first qualifier down. It would have been a different tune that I would be singing. I would probably recommend this game. I found myself pulling it out, playing it on my Game Boy just kind of all week off and on, because I was really trying to get past the Japan qualifier so I could see more of the game.
Mm-hmm.
If I was able to do that, I would recommend this. But because all I can say is I liked everything here except for, I mean, pretty much the way that the game itself is executed. Like, I like everything built around it, but the actual way that the bowling is done and how difficult it is to actually get a good enough score to move on to the next one, I can't. And maybe that's just me. I know you said you don't think it's because I'm bad, but I don't know. If anyone else, anyone listening has played this game and you aced it, like if I were Super Bowler and got really far past the qualifier and stuff the first time, I would love to know how. Because if it really is just like Jeff is saying, where you kind of just have to cheese it or like solve it and then it's just done, then even more so, I would not recommend it. I want something with a little more like reason to keep coming back, I guess.
I almost wonder if that's potentially a little bit of a fundamental issue with bowling games in general. I think the Wii is so much fun because you're physically doing it.
Yeah, you're doing the activity like in real life.
Exactly. Whereas any virtual bowling game, I can't imagine how they would make it not solvable. Like I go to this spot, I hit this, without it just being completely RNG, which is also not fun, right? So I almost wonder if that's inherently an issue with kind of a realistic bowling game, that unless you add leveling up or some sort of extra mechanic that makes it easier as you go.
Exactly.
Yeah, it feels like virtual bowling almost is solvable in any sort of game. And I'm interested to see how the future games kind of handle that, or if that's a recurring thing that we have with bowling.
I don't think that would even be an issue for me, honestly, if there was something else going on. So what if it was something more like a bowling RPG?
Yeah.
Where your character is earning money through tournaments and then you're buying new equipment or a new bowling ball, or you're paying your way through to higher tournaments with bigger payouts.
And you're getting experience points to, increase.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that would be fine if the bowling was presented pretty much exactly like it is in this game.
I agree.
But had this extra function, this other layer of gameplay that made you feel like you were improving or progressing.
Clear path forward.
Even though, you know, maybe you did get stuck at the bottom league for more times than you would have liked to. That's fine. At least you were earning something out of it. Instead of like this game, you're just getting kicked back to the main menu every time. And it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll just try again.
I 100% agree with that. And I think that's maybe a better way of saying what I was trying to get at is, yeah, I feel like it needs something else, another mechanic, another something to really make it feel like a full game. And without that, yeah, it feels like either a little bit RNG or it feels like the best way to play it is find the exact place that you're supposed to be and just do that every time, which, yeah, feels like you're cheesing the game.
At that point, you might as well just watch someone else do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, on that sour note, I suppose, it's quiz time.
Quiz time. All right, so sitting at 78%, I did pretty well last week, but sports games, again, historically seem to not do super well for me, so we'll see what Tony has dug up with bowling quiz.
Yeah, I think this might be a decent one. We'll have to see. World Bowling Quiz. Question 1. So, we just played bowling on a small scale, all on our own. But what if we wanted to play bowling on a larger scale with as many people as we could manage? If that was the case, we'd need to head to Japan's Inazawa Grand Bowl, and it's nearly 200,000 square feet or 19,000 square meters of floor space, with so many lanes that it would honestly probably make me dizzy to try and stare at them straight at the same time for too long. What I want to know is it true or false that over 1,000 active bowlers can be accommodated by Inazawa Grand Bowl's many, many lanes?
Over 1,000 active bowlers. How many are you putting on a lane? Because technically, you could put 1,000 bowlers on one lane.
No, I want to know, because I'm not going to tell you how many lanes Inazawa Grand Bowl has. I want to know if 1,000 people can be bowling on the lanes at the same time. Over 1,000 people. Is it going to be more or less than that? What is maximum capacity, basically?
So, okay. I would say for 1,000 people, you have like 5 people per lane-ish is kind of what I'm gonna go with. And so what? That would mean you need like 200 lanes? That seems really big.
It is very big.
I'm gonna say I think regardless of my answer, I'm correct because technically either could be correct. However, I'm going to say false, and 1,000 is too much because 200 lanes seems insane.
You're right. It is false.
Let's go. I had justification either way, but
it may have over 90,000 square feet or 8,000 square meters of actual bowling lanes, but the maximum capacity for bowlers is just under 700. As of 2025, it is still the largest bowling center in the world, contained on one floor.
Wow.
But another Japanese bowling center, the Nagoya Grand Bowl, actually contains more total bowling lanes. They're just not all on the same floor. So it has 156 total lanes, but they're spread 52 each on 3 separate floors. So the Inazawa Grand Bowl is 116 lanes, I believe it is.
Wow.
All spread out just side by side by side by side by side.
I can't imagine having that all on one floor.
Yeah.
It's not like there's just heaps of land there.
Well, I had actually read that Japan kind of had like a bowling boom during, I believe it was the 70s. And so there was like a surge of bowling centers in like metropolitan Japan, and some of them stayed around, some of them downsized, but some of the ones that were even bigger than the 2 I already mentioned just aren't really around anymore. But like at one time, There were even larger bowling centers in Japan. They just didn't last into, the modern era.
Got it.
All right, one down.
Starting off strong.
Question 2. The company behind World Bowling, Athena Co. Limited, was fairly prolific in the 1990s, though most of its body of games work isn't really known here in the US. Actually, a large number of Athena's games are games in a couple different series, recurring series. One of those series is Pro Mahjong Kiwame, which is like a professional style Mahjong video game series. That's not the one I want to talk about. The one I'm more interested in is a game series called Desaimon. And these started on the NES, the Famicom, in 1991, and they continued making them throughout the 90s until the final entry, Desaimon Kids, which came out on the PlayStation in 1998. Similar to other game-making software like RPG Maker, the Desaimon titles let you make what kind of games all on your own hardware? Is it A, single-screen puzzle platformers, B, multiplayer squad-based first-person arena shooters, C, horizontal or vertical shoot-'em-ups, or D, Balatro clones?
Oh, Balatro clones, obviously.
I know, all the way back in 1991.
Oh, I want to say what A was puzzle games.
Single-screen puzzle platformers.
I mean, everything we've done is puzzle platform. Well, not everything, but there have been so many puzzle games. I definitely don't think it's B either.
Oh, you're not gonna make like Rainbow Six on the Nintendo?
Maybe nowadays, but back in NES days, I don't see that.
I have no idea if that's even a good comparison. I've never played a Rainbow Six game in my life.
Shoot 'em ups is an interesting thought. I think that would be relatively easy to have people make. But I'm gonna go with A as my answer.
Too bad, it's C.
Oh.
The Desaimon series has 7 games total across multiple consoles, no handheld versions. They start on the NES, there's an SNES game, PS1, Sega Saturn, and there's even one on the N64.
Ooh.
Complete with pixel sprite editors, music makers, drag and drop, level layout. I would honestly love to get my hands on one and see what I could do with it, but unfortunately none of them have ever come to the United States at all. But there is a fan translation for Desaimon 3D on the Nintendo 64, so I might check that out sometime because it's one that lets you make 3D polygonal shoot-'em-ups with like 3D models instead of 2D sprites, and I would love to see how they manage that on the N64.
Yeah, interesting. Well, 1 for 2, so let's see if I can go 2 for 3.
You can do it. I believe in you. Question 3. While Athena may have been the developer and the publisher of the original Japanese version of World Bowling, it was Romstar that picked up the game for translation and distribution here in the United States. Not primarily a developer themselves, Romstar Inc. was more responsible for bringing a number of arcade titles over to the States through licensing for arcade cabinets or ports to consoles. While it doesn't seem 100% certain what exactly happened to Romstar from what I read, the most likely scenario is that they partnered with Capcom in 1993 to form GameStar Inc., and by 1995, they were gone. But where to? A. Capcom took over GameStar Inc. and turned it into Capcom Coin Op, a pinball manufacturer. B. GameStar Inc. also disappeared, leaving only loose ends. C. All Romstar/GameStar assets were unceremoniously dissolved, the end. Or D. They're still around making beloved classics from the shadows over 30 years later.
Shadow cabal of Romstar.
I could barely get that out with a straight face.
How is the fate of the company not known? That's insane to me. I guess record keeping in the 90s was not that good.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was a lot of like, this company had this much stake in this other company. And I don't know. I did not go super deep. Again, I couldn't find a ton of relevant information, and some of what I was able to find is in Japanese, which I don't read super duper well. So take it for what little I am able to provide.
I'm not going to think too much on this. I feel like B and C sounded too similar, especially if it's like unknown. So I'm just going to go with A, that they make pinball machines now.
It is A. Good job.
Let's go. See, not thinking works sometimes.
Sometimes, you know what? You proved the theory 50-50. From what I read about the situation, Romstar was phased out and GameStar Inc. became the default name, even on the first arcade game to come out of the new Capcom coin-op label, which was a game called Goofy Hoops. It was like a basketball arcade game. That was originally designed by Romstar. It still had their name attached to it, I believe. Again, take everything I'm saying with the, amateur researcher skepticism, but the Capcom coin-op company made like a handful of pinball tables. They weren't around for a really long time, only kind of a few years. None of the tables sold really well. They never manufactured them in really big quantities. So within just a few years, they kind of just stopped making new tables altogether. And in the early 2000s, they shuttered completely.
Sad. A little not sad. I went 2 for 3.
Right.
Did not help my score at all because that's still 66%, but it's better than 1 for 3.
Sure.
Can you remind us of what our listener quiz question from last week was?
I sure can. So, Q-Billion's question for everybody at home was about how in not just one, but 2 separate print ads that I found that featured Q-Billion, both of them had this little section in the bottom corner of the ad that you were supposed to cut out and ship back to an address in Reno, Nevada, which I can only imagine is Lord knows what these days. But you would ship it to them for free membership into something. And I wanted to know what. Jeff, any guesses?
At one point in life, I saw that Nintendo used to have like a phone-in service where you could call in.
Sure. Yeah, the hotline.
Yeah, and they would kind of like help you if you're stuck on something.
Right.
I want to say that because that's the only thing that makes sense. And also I want to show off that I have that knowledge.
Oh.
That's my guess.
That's a good guess. I mean, that's pretty close. Okay. I don't really know what the benefits of this thing were, but the little cutout was something known as a Q-Billion club card, and it was your ticket to joining some mysterious fan club.
Interesting.
I searched and searched for anything I could find about what this was supposed to mean, if it was access to some sort of like tip line, or if they were going to like mail you promotional materials, or if it was maybe just something you were supposed to like stick in your wallet and just pretend that you were like a cool kid for being part of the Q-Billion club. I have no idea. I couldn't find anything at all about this. So anybody at home, if you were ever a Q-Billion club card holder, please let us know what that meant. What sweet benefits did you get out of that?
You got a tile with a number on it, and that was it.
They just send you like Cheese of the Month Club.
Hey, I'd do that. What's the question for this week?
Okay, question for this week. So the previously mentioned Capcom coin-op may not have been too successful in its pinball table business, but that doesn't mean that all of its designs were failures. One table they had queued for production, but that was ultimately canceled when the company stopped new manufacturing, sort of developed something of a reputation over time when it was produced in very small quantities by the Illinois Pinball Company. With stellar art design, all manner of lights, tubes, and other alien oddities, this table, set at a club in outer space, is a legendary favorite among people that have had a chance to play on it. But what was it called?
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Good luck and let us know what you think, but
Right.
I have no idea on this one.
I wonder, because we do get comments from people, which I love to see.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you are listening to this anywhere that comments are available to be left, I love reading those. So please leave those when possible. But I love to see when people guess like what the audience question is, and it makes me wonder like how many people do guess, like strictly guess, and how many people kind of try to follow the breadcrumbs and like look up what I'm talking about for themselves.
We love it when you write in and let us know, even if you are just guessing. You know, that's what I'm doing every day. So it's always good to see that I'm not alone. Thanks for listening to Critical DMG. If you would like to support us further, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/criticaldmgpod. Join us there for monthly newsletters and extra content. Otherwise, please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe recommend us to your friends or anyone else you might think that would like the show. It really helps us out, and we appreciate it. That brings us to an end of our bowling career for now. Join us next week when we talk about Nemesis. Another game I'm not super familiar with, but...
Me either. I have seen this one around when I've been poking around for like loose cart type stuff. This one is one that I have seen the cover for kind of a lot, but I've never played it myself.
Yeah, it sounds like it has one of those kind of generic names that it could be a puzzle game, it could be a platformer, action.
Yeah.
I feel like it could be a shoot 'em up, it could be a whole host of things. Join us next week and we'll find out together what it is.
Yep, let's just wait till then. Anyway, bye everybody.
Bye-bye.